The first time Elias Ward saw Jonah Hale, it was just another name on a clipboard. Cell Block C, Inmate 44721. Convicted of armed robbery and homicide. Sentence, life without parole. Elias had learned early not to look at faces for too long. Faces made you curious. Curiosity led to sympathy. Sympathy made this job dangerous. The prison had a rhythm. Steel doors slammed shut at dawn. Boots echoed along concrete corridors. Voices rose and fell like distant waves, always angry, always tired. Elias had worked here for 11 years, long enough for the noise to fade into background static, long enough for the job to stop being about people and become about procedure, until Jonah Hale looked up. Their eyes met through the bars for barely a second, but something in Jonah's expression didn't match the file. No rage, no fear, just exhaustion, the kind that settled deep in the bones. Elias broke eye contact and kept walking. He told himself that was the end of it. It wasn't. Over the next weeks, Elias began to notice Jonah, without meaning to. He read in the evenings, always the same worn paperbacks. He helped older inmates carry trays in the cafeteria. When fights broke out, he stepped away instead of joining in. He followed the rules with a quiet precision that made him almost invisible. Invisible men, Elias knew, were often the most dangerous, or the most broken. One night during late rounds, Elias stopped outside Jonah's cell, not because of policy, because Jonah was awake, sitting on his bunk, staring at the wall. "You okay?" Elias asked before he could stop himself. Jonah turned slowly. Does it matter? The answer should have been no. Elias knew that. He should have moved on. Instead, he said, "It does if you're causing trouble." A faint smile crossed Jonah's face. "I don't cause trouble. Trouble find me." Elias scoffed and walked away, annoyed at himself for engaging. Guards didn't talk. Guards observed. But that night, Elias dreamed of a man shouting his innocence into an empty room, his voice echoing until it vanished. He woke up unsettled. The next interaction came months later, after a new warden took over. Budget cuts, staff shortages, longer shifts. Tension grew thick enough to taste. One afternoon, a younger guard shoved Jonah during a routine search, accusing him of hiding contraband. Jonah fell hard, his head hitting the concrete. Elias reacted without thinking. He stepped between them. "That's enough," Elias said. The younger guard stared at him, shocked. "You siding with him now?" "I'm siding with protocol," Elias replied. "Medical check. Now." The report disappeared before it reached the warden's desk. The younger guard was transferred. Jonah returned to his cell with a stitched eyebrow and a quiet nod of gratitude. That nod stayed with Elias longer than it should have. A week later, Jonah slipped a folded piece of paper through the bars during meal delivery. Elias froze. Accepting anything from an inmate was grounds for termination. Worse. "Don't," Elias hissed. "Just read it," Jonah whispered. "Then decide." Elias shoved the paper into his pocket and didn't look at it until he was home, sitting alone at his kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee. Inside were names, dates, a location, and one sentence written carefully, like it mattered. "I didn't kill him." Elias leaned back, heart pounding. Prison was full of innocent men, all claiming the same thing. Lies were currency here. But something about the details bothered him. The dates lined up with a robbery Elias vaguely remembered from the news years ago. The victim, a local businessman, shot dead in his office. Case closed in record time. Too fast. Elias told himself to throw the paper away. Instead, he searched the case online. The deeper he looked, the less sense it made. Evidence logged after it was supposedly collected. A witness who changed his story twice. A security camera that malfunctioned at a very convenient moment. And Jonah Hale's confession. A confession signed after 16 hours of interrogation. Elias felt something crack inside him. Transfers were chaos. Paperwork lagged. Security shifted. Mistakes happened, or they could be made to happen. Elias knew the blind spots. He knew which cameras glitched during storms. He knew which guards drank too much coffee and too little attention. The night of the transfer, rain hammered the yard. Thunder rolled like distant gunfire. Inmates were moved in groups, shackled and hooded. Elias escorted Jonah. At the service corridor near the old laundry wing, the camera flickered. Elias stopped. "Wait," he said. The other guard frowned. "What?" "Radio check." Elias replied, already stepping back. He unlocked Jonah's cuffs. Jonah stared at him, disbelief freezing his face. "Go," Elias whispered. "I can't." "Now." Footsteps echoed in the distance. Jonah hesitated only a second, then vanished down the corridor Elias had left unmonitored. The alarm sounded minutes later. The prison erupted. Searchlights cut through the rain. Sirens screamed. Guards shouted orders that tangled into noise. Elias stood exactly where he was supposed to be when they found him. He didn't resist. The investigation was swift and merciless. Elias told the truth. He didn't deny it. He didn't justify it. "I did it," he said, "because the law failed." They called him naive, corrupt, a traitor to the badge. He was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. On his first night inside, the cell door slammed shut with a sound he had heard thousands of times before. This time, it echoed differently. Weeks later, a news article circulated quietly through the facility. A man named Jonah Hale had turned himself in at a courthouse 2 states away, with evidence, emails, recordings, a witness recantation, proof of coercion. The case exploded. Detectives were suspended. Charges were dismissed. The real killer was arrested after trying to flee the country. Jonah walked free after 15 years. Elias read the article 3 times, hands shaking. Months later, Jonah visited him. They sat across from each other in the visiting room, separated by nothing but a scarred table. "I'm sorry," Jonah said. "You're in here because of me." Elias shook his head. "I'm in here because of a choice I made." Jonah slid a folder across the table. "There's a fund, legal support, people who believe what you did mattered." Elias didn't open it. "What are you going to do?" Elias asked. Jonah smiled, small and tired. "Tell the truth, as loud as I can." When Jonah left, Elias felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. The prison still had its rhythm. Doors still slammed. Boots still echoed. But now, when Elias lay on his bunk at night, staring at the ceiling, he knew something important. Justice didn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes it wore chains. And sometimes it asked one good man to break the rules, so the truth could finally walk free. Subscribe to this channel to get more interesting stories about justice. Like the video, share to friends, and drop your thoughts on the story below in the comments. We promise to read them and reply too.